In this lesson, we're going to be looking at a way we can deal with brackets in algebra. To do this, we are going to have to remember how to multiply terms, and so 3p and 4m are just two terms. When you multiply them, multiply the numbers together normally, so that's 12, and just put the letters together, so that's going to be 12mp. And also, if I had a letter twice there, then I could use my index numbers to indicate how many times that letter appeared when I was multiplying. And we'll also need to be able to add or subtract like terms. And so in this expression here, there are 4 terms, and the like terms are the ones that have exactly the same letters and combinations of letters. So the 4a and the 2a, they are like terms, and so when I'm adding them, I go 4a and I go plus 2a. Remember this minus sign here, that's got nothing to do with the 4a. A number always has its sign in front of it. So when we do it as 4a plus 2a. Now when we look at this mk, that is not a like term to m over here. This is mk, that's just m. They're two different things. It has to have the same combination of letters, but remember the letters can be in a different order. So if I had a km over here, then that would be okay. That would be the same as mk. So the order doesn't matter, but all the letters have got to be there for them to be like terms. Now, the reason that we're going to need a strategy to deal with brackets is if we have a look at this expression here, and if I was doing BODMAS, I've got a times here. There's a times between the 2 and the bracket there, and there's also a times between the 3 and the a and the 4 and the b, etc. But the problem is that BODMAS says do the brackets first, which means I'm supposed to be adding these together, but I can't do that. They're not like terms, so I can't do anything to 3a plus 4b, so how can I do my brackets first? And so we're going to look at a strategy to deal with just that problem. Now the strategy is called expanding, and it means we're going to multiply to remove brackets. It's also known as the distributive law. So if we were to take a look at this concept here of just 3 apples and 4 bananas, let's say this was a fruit bowl, and in it you see 3 apples and 4 bananas, and then you look next door to it and there's another identical fruit bowl with 3 apples and 4 bananas. In other words, you've got 2 lots of this same fruit bowl. Each of them has 3 apples and 4 bananas. So if I was to ask you how many apples do you have and how many bananas do you have, well, you don't need to try and combine them together to make apple bananas or anything first. You can just say, well, there's 2 lots of 3 apples, so that means it's going to be 6 apples, and there's 2 lots of 4 bananas. And so we don't need to add the things in the brackets first. What we did was we said, well, there's 2 lots of this first one and also 2 lots of this second one. So effectively, we multiplied what was outside the bracket by each individual thing inside the bracket. So that's what we're going to do to deal with brackets when there's algebra. So this is an algebra one, and this is actually exactly the same as up here. It's just that instead of 3 apples and 4 bananas, I've said there's 3 A's and 4 B's. And I didn't write the times sign because you don't write a times sign between a bracket and a number, or a bracket and a letter, or a letter and a letter, etc. And so what we do is we multiply the 2 by the 3a. We say, all right, well, if I've got 2 lots of this bracket, that means I've got 2 lots of 3a. And I work that out. 2 times 3a is 6a. I write it underneath. And then I say, well, there's also 2 lots of 4b. And so 2 times 4b is 8b. And I write that underneath as well. And so after the brackets have been expanded, if I had like terms, I could try and collect them together. I don't have like terms here, and so that's my final answer. Notice that there's no brackets anymore, but this and this are equivalent expressions. If we tried substituting numbers in to this one for A and B, and then we substitute those same numbers into this one here, we would find we always get the same answer. They actually mean exactly the same thing, they just look different. So let's go straight into the examples here. We're going to simplify this expression here by expanding the brackets. And so the first thing I do is I write it down. That's a nice easy thing. And with these, we'll always go downwards, even though sometimes we're going straight to the final answer. It's nice to be able to line the terms up, which we'll see in a moment. So what I do is I'm going to do 4x times y. And 4x times y is just 4xy. So I write that underneath. And then I go 4x times negative k. Remember, the k's got its sign in front of it. And so it's 4x times negative k, which is negative 4xk. And so I just write down negative 4xk. Now, I've actually just got my final answer there. Once again, though, even though we're going straight to the final answer, we do write this underneath, because then it's clear to see these have turned into that, and then these have turned into that, because they're pretty much written underneath. These little lines here, a lot of people do that, and I sometimes even do that myself, just to remind them that you're multiplying what's out the front by everything inside. Now, you don't have to do that, but I actually recommend it until you're really used to what you're doing and really just got the hang of it. Now, in the next one, it's a bit bigger. We're going to simplify this expression here by expanding the brackets, and then we're going to collect like terms. So our first step, let's write the whole expression down. And now when I'm expanding the brackets, this 3 here, it's got nothing to do with this 7m. It's not in the brackets. And so when you expand, you only need to multiply by what's inside the brackets. Now you might be asking, what do we do with the 7m? We don't do anything with the 7m. We just write it down. We haven't used it yet. And so it's going to look like this. 3 times 2m. That is 6m, so I write that down. Then I go 3 times the negative 4. 3 times negative 4 is negative 12, so I write negative 12 down. Remember, that now doubles as a minus sign there. I can think of that as 6m minus 12. And this plus 7m, I don't times it by the 3 because it's not in the brackets, the 7m. All I do is I just write it down. And now I have a look at my next line down. I'm trying to collect like terms. Do we see any? I see the 6m and I see the 7m here. I can't do anything to the 12 because if it's got letters, it's not like terms with anything without letters. So 6m plus 7m is 13m, and this minus 12 is just going to have to stay there. And I can't do anything else to that, but I have gotten rid of the brackets and I have collected my like terms. Let's now take a look at an even bigger one, just to see that the concept's exactly the same. I'm going to simplify this expression here. Let's start by writing it down. And now I start expanding the brackets. Now, this 3 here has nothing to do with the 5 or the x or the minus 4. I'm going to expand these brackets first, and then I'm going to expand these brackets. I'm going to treat it like 2 separate things. So we start by going the 3 times the x, which is 3x. Then I go the 3 times the 2, which is 6. And now I'm done with that. That 3 and that bracket, that's all dealt with now. I move on to the 5. This is positive 5 times by x. That is positive 5x. So I write positive 5x. Remember, this now doubles as a plus sign now. But when I was working it out, I just went, well, it's a positive 5 times x. So I wrote positive 5x. And then the plus sign will sort itself out later on. The next one is positive 5 times negative 4. And so positive 5 times negative 4 is negative 20. So once again, I just write down negative 20. And hey, now it's a minus sign as well. That's useful because now I'm going to collect my like terms. And so I've got 3x here and 5x there. That's going to be 8x. And then I've got 6 minus 20 there, which is negative 14. And so once again, I just went 3x plus 5x is 8x. And then I went 6 take away negative 20. That's negative 14. So I just wrote down negative 14 there. That's all I had to do. Okay, your turn to give it a go with some practice questions. Remember to pause the video. And there's our solutions there, working downwards. So really, we're just writing down the answer for that one, but underneath, this one had that extra line of working before we collected like terms. Now let's have another look at those. So the first one, I had to simplify this expression here by expanding the bracket. So I started by writing it down, and then I went 2x times m, which is where 2mx comes from, and 2x times negative 3. So just multiplied the one outside the bracket by each term separately inside the brackets. 2x times negative 3 got me negative 6x, so I just wrote down negative 6x. And now I've got 2mx minus 6x, which is my final answer. And in the second one here, it was a bit bigger, but it's still just that same process. I wrote the whole expression down, and then I went 2 times 5a, wrote down the answer, 10a. 2 times negative 3, wrote down the answer of negative 6. Remember, didn't care that it's going to be a minus sign, I just wrote down negative 6. Then positive 6 times A is positive 6A. Just wrote down plus 6A. And then positive 6 times positive 4 is positive 24. So I wrote down the plus sign, 24. Then just had to collect the like terms, 10A's plus another 6A's. That's where 16A comes from. Negative 6, remember it's got the sign in front of it, so it's not 6, it's negative 6. Negative 6 plus 24 is 18. Here is a couple more practice questions. If you need to have another go, remember to pause the video. And there are the solutions for that with the working. And that brings us to the end of the lesson.